There are reports indicating that the Pentagon is weighing different options in how to handle increasing evidence of chemical weapon strikes in Syria. Joining us now to discuss is HuffPost reporter Christina Wilkie, HuffPost national reporter. Hi, Christina. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Alana. Thanks for having me.
All right. So what we know now is that there's been a CBS News report that reportedly, the United States is preparing for possible cruise missile strikes in Syria. But how seriously should we take this at the moment, especially considering the interview that President Obama gave to CNN just earlier today, where he said that taking any kind of action without a UN mandate, without very concrete evidence of chemical weapons being used would be something that might be a violation of international law?
That's a really good point. Right now, what we have as the news, we have two elements of news. We have the fact that CBS is reporting that the U.S. has moved ships off the coast of Syria that might potentially be used to fire the missiles that we could hypothetically be talking about. And we also know that the White House is going to hold a meeting tomorrow where the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is going to offer the president, present him with options. It's important to remember that the military keeps these kinds of options on the table all the time. There are entire sections of the Department of Defense that do nothing but come up with scenarios. So when the president asks for some, certainly it's significant that he wants this special presentation, but it's not as though the military is going to go running back and have to do something that they haven't done before. They've been prepared for a number of options, and what's really changed is the situation on the ground.
And so, and they're saying that it'll be General Martin Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, that will be presenting him with some of these options over the weekend. But, in terms of any action that even might be taken, let's say that the decision was made to do so, is that something that would require congressional approval because it's military action? And how does this all come into play? I think we all remember what happened in Libya, and there was, rightly so, a lot of consternation over that.
Right. No, the only thing that requires congressional approval is a declaration of war, and this has been a hot button issue in the United States, dating back to right after 9/11, when the U.S. began an operation in Afghanistan without congressional approval of war, and these operations continued through Iraq and then through Libya. Congress can take resolutions in support of government or of executive action, but at the end of the day, the president is commander in chief, and he has a certain amount of time. I can't remember if it's 3 days or 3 months, but he has a significant amount of time with which to act before he needs to go back to Congress.
But as far as I understand, too, and I guess, this is one of the things that we often see debated, is it would have to be, there would have to be an imminent threat to the United States, which is one of the questions that many people would be asking here.
Right, and it's important to think about chemical weapons as a different kind of threat than we would consider political instability, like the kind that we saw in Libya, or the kind we're seeing right now in Egypt. From a military perspective, chemical weapons are considered a threat, just like nuclear weapons and biological weapons. They're considered a threat to the whole world, and so and they're banned in a number of multilateral international conventions. It is a major step for any body to authorize the use of chemical weapons. It would not be done. It's inconceivable in first world conflicts. The last evidence we have before Syria of significant chemical weapons usage was probably in Iraq under the reign of Saddam Hussein in '86. There were terrible attacks on Kurdish settlements, but the use for the entire global community, the willingness of a country to use chemical weapons should put us all on very high alert.
Yeah, and prior to this, President Barack Obama had said that would be something that would signify a red line as to some kind of action on the part of the United States if there was concrete evidence that chemical weapons had been used in Syria. And so what is the latest, intelligence or the latest details that we have that are coming out that would point to this being true?
Right. On Wednesday, there was an attack in the outskirts of a major Syrian city, Damascus, and there were reportedly thousands of individuals, mostly civilians, impacted. What we saw were video of these people. Their pupils and their eyes became teeny tiny, like the tips of pins. Children and adults were coughing, were struggling to breathe. We saw a lot of footage of people who had died. One of the things that may be happening here, and that I've heard experts posit, is that Assad, what he may be doing is using a watered down agent, chemical agent, so that it doesn't show many of the immediate extreme signs of chemical weapons poisoning. Experts can often trace which gas or which chemical was used based on the symptoms. These symptoms could be applicable, I understand, to a number of different chemical agents and biological agents. But what he could be doing is watering them down, which would be very clever, very dangerous, to the point where it doesn't register on certain kinds of meters, Geiger meters, as a specific kind of chemical agent. But what we saw, those thousands of people struggling to breathe, that wasn't conventional warfare.
All right, Christina, thanks so much for the update, and we'll be sure to let everyone at home know, if there's any more information that does come out.
Thanks, Alana.
All right, guys, stick around. There's more coming up on HuffPost Live.